A live look now inside the Delta Center in Salt Lake City. The clean ice where the men are skating for gold here at the State Farm U.S. Figure Skating Championships. The men's free skate already underway. The final group, including the overall leaders, moments away from stepping on the ice. Here's the way they stood after the short program. Michael Weiss with the lead, the two-time U.S. silver medalist. High-flying 18-year-old Timothy Gable right behind him. And then the two surprises, Triffin Ivanovic and Matt Savoy. Hi again and welcome. I'm Terry Gannon. Don't forget, when Michelle Kwan and the ladies take the ice later tonight, we'll be here with their free skate live beginning at 9 o'clock Eastern and Pacific. But right now here in the men's championships, everyone wants to be like Mike. This has been a breakthrough season for Michael Weiss after 2 years in waiting behind Todd Eldridge. The stage is now entirely his. What will he do with it? We welcome in Olympic champion Dick Button to answer that very question. You've got all the answers to all the questions. How about this one?
Well, you know, it's really tough being the crown prince. I mean, everybody expects you to ascend to the throne with newspapers touting your every move. I mean, it's worse than having someone ahead of you to beat. And that's what Michael Weiss is finding out. So the question is, how's he doing? Well, he placed well in a series of competitions in the fall circuit. He worked with Tamara Moskvina for a short time, and it had a good effect on him. He recently had the flu, lost 6 days of practice, and the short program here was lackluster. But this morning, he landed a superb quadruple toe loop that was as good as they come. Now, one thing is for sure. Everybody knows this guy will give this event his very best. Now, a man who knows about giving his best and whose career rests upon the fact that in 1977 he was the Midwestern the Pacific Coast novice men's runner-up champion. Congratulations, Brian Boitano.
And it was a really good skate for me too, Dick. Well, here everybody is expecting Michael Weiss to win, but Timothy Gable is poised for an upset. He is skating with none of the expectation that Michael Weiss has, and this may be the key to his success. He's loose, he's laid back, and he's landed quads in competition before. He's also an aggressive competitor, and he's coming into this competition as an underdog. All of these factors could add up to a national title depending on how Michael Weiss skates.
So no one's going to hand it to Michael Weiss. He better bring his A game. There he is loosening up backstage. Unfortunately, Weiss takes the ice these days without one of his most important team members. Leslie Visser has more on the man behind Weiss's rise and his moving struggle.
Michael Weiss and his wife Lisa became parents in September, and with a radiant smile, he'll tell anyone who asks that being a parent has affected the way he looks at life. Gazing at his baby girl brings up thoughts of immortality.
I think, especially, you know, when you start a family, you start thinking about those things a little bit more. I turn to Lisa all the time and I say, you know, look at how lucky we are. We have a healthy baby. I mean, so many people overlook those little things.
After today's performance, Lisa and little Annie Mae will be waiting for Michael to come off the ice. But there's one member of Team Weiss who won't be in Salt Lake City, someone who's given Michael another reason to ponder mortality. Choreographer Brian Wright, who discovered in 1985 that he was HIV positive.
At that time in my career, I was starting to take off. I was starting to get hot. When you're doing so well, you feel invincible. And tragedy doesn't happen to winners.
His clients were winners too. Scott Davis took national titles in '93 and '94 when Brian was named Choreographer of the Year. Despite his illness, Brian continued working, maybe too hard. 3 weeks before '93 Nationals, he developed full-blown AIDS, but his talent was still in demand. When Michael Weiss needed a spark, he chose Brian.
I've always known that Brian was sick, but I've always been somebody to get to know somebody before I judge them. And I think he came into my life at a very important time. I was getting all the technical jumps and the skating things that I needed to do, you know, the quads and the triple axels. But I was missing something a little bit in my skating, and that was, you know, the artistic factor, and that was something that he brought to my skating that I really thank him for.
Brian continues to choreograph for Michael, including today's long program, but his failing health with severe blood clots in his leg make traveling impossible. Even though work is an emotional catharsis, it's become a physical torture.
I value my work now a little bit more. I don't take it for granted as much as I used to. When I do work and it comes off beautifully, it's more joyful than it ever was.
These days, Lisa's doing most of her husband's choreography. Brian's time is devoted to a daily regimen of pills and injections, costing thousands of dollars each month. And even with insurance and help from his parents, Brian struggles. Today, when Michael skates their long program, Brian will be watching on TV.
The reason I don't go to these events anymore is financial. I absolutely have no money for one night at a hotel room. The money that I do have is for emergencies, what is inevitably going to happen medically, and I don't have a spare dime. It's too bad. I'd like to see Mike compete one more time.
His blood clots are so dangerous that he never knows if he'll awaken to see another day. Yet he believes his work will be his legacy.
By virtue of teaching, I feel a great sense of immortality, and that part of my ideology and concept and approach to skating will live on.
Brian's absence here is as much physical as it is financial. He is simply too sick to travel. Well, as for the USFSA, they have now begun to have AIDS awareness seminars at their summer training camps in Colorado Springs. Terry, they know that these skaters are young and need to be informed.
All right, Leslie, thank you. Obviously a positive move. And there is Greg Weiss, not only Michael Weiss's dad, but the grandfather of Annie Mae, of course. And there's Michael warming up, the two-time silver medalist. And Dick, when you look at what he plans here in the free skate, what are we going to look for?
Well, I think the most important thing is the quadruple toe loop. Now, remember, nobody has ever successfully completed a quadruple jump in the national championships. He's also got eight triples, which include the two triple combinations. And his choreography, I think we'll have to judge that for ourselves. But in the short program, he was freer and looser than ever.
Brian, how about Timothy Gable in second place, only 18 years of age, and the only American, this is what he's known for, to complete a quad jump in competition?
Well, with Timothy Gable, you'll see that everything on the list is technical, and I think he's developed in the right way. He's concentrating on the technical side first, because if you don't do the technical stuff, you don't have a chance, and his style will continue to develop as he gets older.
And right behind Timothy Gable, Trifon Zivanovic in third place. His best finish ever, Dick, a 7th place finish at Nationals.
Well, you know, he's an interesting young man. He's a fine athlete, a good jumper. Now, he still needs to work on his posture, his stretch, and his position. But I'll tell you something, he skates with a lot of flair and boldness.
Expecting big things out of Trifon. And there's Matt Savoy, a freshman in college at Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois. Brian's been consistent all week long.
He sure has, and he's in a perfect position. He's one of the technically best out there, but he has absolutely no pressure. Everything he does is good quality, good jumps, good spins, good skating. He has a great future. What his weakness is his style, and that also will improve with age.
Final moments before this last group takes the ice to compete for the gold medal here at the State Farm U.S. Figure Skating Championships. And the order in which they will skate, it'll be Matt Savoy who will start it off, and then Michael Weiss early on will skate. And if you go all the way down the order, Timothy Gable is last. Now, in terms of the quad, does that make any difference at all if he watches Weiss and maybe to see if he needs it or not, Brian?
Well, you know, I think it is difficult to skate last and do a quad, but I don't think Timothy Gable's that kind of skater. I think he knows in his mind what he has planned for here, and he's not going to let anybody else affect that.
You know, one of the worst things is to change your mind at the last minute.
Right.
And that causes wreaks havoc on many of these skaters.
Yeah, the other thing to think about here in Salt Lake City, we're about at 4,200 feet in terms of altitude. It's been another obstacle for these skaters all week long to deal with.
I have seen that affect the skaters all week long. Yesterday, on the one day off, none of the skaters did a complete run through of this long program, and that's very unusual.
Dick, did you ever go to a national championship without having gone through your program in practice?
Well, I'll tell you something. The altitude in places like Colorado Springs and some of the other sites for high altitude sites were disastrous for certain people. Some skaters with a long, thin kind of body can do it very well. Others have great struggle with altitude and have to adjust it over a long period of time.
And remember, the free skate lasts 4 minutes and 30 seconds, which could be the longest 4.5 minutes of your life, especially at altitude.
And you know, just an interesting comment about this warm-up. What we saw was almost 100 jumps and probably only 1 or 2 spins. So it's interesting to show you what these skaters warm up.
And I know it's always